I'm Wayne Epps with the Richmond Times Dispatch here with another episode of Ram Talk with the RTD. In this championship week, one of the best weeks of the season, VC has a massive weekend ahead in the Atlantic Tournament, a lot of things at stake. I'm going to kind of break down the last weekend of the regular season this past weekend and then look ahead to what's ahead in Washington, D.C. this weekend. So just to start with this past Saturday, the last day of the regular season, there were a lot of scenarios at stake as far as seeding, and a big one for VCU in terms of if Dayton beat the first place team, Davidson, on Saturday, then VCU had a shot at the number one seed. And Dayton did do that. They beat Davidson at home, and which meant that if VCU beat St. Louis on the road, VCU would have tied for first place in the league, and because of tiebreakers, would have been the number one seed in the Atlantic Tournament this weekend. And so the Dayton Davidson game finished mid afternoon on Saturday, and the VCU game at St. Louis started late afternoon, and so that result was already in place. So VCU just had to win at St. Louis, but they came out had kind of a flat performance in the first half. VCU has played very strong defense all year. That's kind of been their linchpin and their foundation throughout the year. And they came out in the first half, and St. Louis was able to exploit the VCU defense in a way that a lot of teams haven't this year. St. Louis shot 52.2% from the field in the first half, went 4 of 9 from 3-point range. They led 41-17 in the first half, and the 41 points was the most points that VCU has given up, or the second most points that VCU has given up in a half so far this season. So VCU kind of dug itself in a big hole at halftime. The hole grew even out of halftime. They were down by 21 early in the second half. But then St. Louis kind of got stuck in the mud offensively, maybe trying to run some time off the clock, and the VCU defense was able to dig in, and it played more typical of the type of VCU defense that the group has played for the majority of this year. They were forcing turnovers. They had 10 second half St. Louis turnovers that they forced, including 8 steals. And St. Louis which was out of sorts offensively in the second half, extended field goal droughts, extended scoring droughts, and it allowed VCU to really claw back into the game. And then finally, in the very late stages, VCU went on a 12-0 run and cut it to 1 with 47.1 seconds to go on a Vince Williams 3, which just considering how big of a hole VCU in, it was kind of unbelievable that they were even that close and still had a chance to win that game. But then on the St. Louis possession after that Vince Williams 3, Yuri Collins, St. Louis' standout point guard, scored there as an answer to Williams 3, and St. Louis was able to kind of stave off VCU in those remaining seconds to win that game. And so that the loss for VCU snapped an 8-game win streak, and settled VCU into the number 3 seed in the A10 tournament as opposed to that top seed. So VCU a week earlier at UMass had already locked up on one of the coveted top 4 seeds, which come with the double bye. So 1 seed or 3 seed, they were going to get the double bye regardless. But obviously, a share of that regular season title with Davidson and that number 1 seed was something they really wanted. So it was kind of a disappointment for VCU in that aspect. So now this week they're kind of working to rebound from that. Mike Rose spoke on Monday in his press conference that they want to use the loss at St. Louis as kind of fuel to their fire heading into the A10 tournament. And again, they have a lot at stake in this A10 tournament. They're still kind of teetering on the NCAA tournament bubble right now, heading into Selection Sunday this Sunday. But they definitely still have some work to do. I think unless they win the A10 tournament and get the automatic bid, the place they want to be in is at least in that title game on Sunday to put themselves in the best spot possible to get into the field with an at-large bid if they don't win the automatic bid. And so, one of the things that Mike Rose talked about that's going to be most important in D.C. This weekend, if they do get to that spot, is the defense, which again has been the foundation for VCU throughout the year. And besides the aberration in the first half at St. Louis, has been probably the most consistent part of VCU's play throughout the year. And I was kind of curious heading into the A10 tournament, just where this defense stands as far as Mike Rose's defense he's had in his 5 years at VCU as head coach. Overall, the 2018-19 team had a very strong defense. That team won 12 games in a row heading to the A10 tournament before falling to Rhode Island in the quarterfinal game, but still got an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament. That one was definitely up there, but I believe this defense may be the best defense that Rose has had in his tenure at VCU. And kind of taking a look at some of the numbers, it kind of speaks to that. This year's defense is better than the 2018-19 team as far as defending the 3, as far as forcing turnovers, as far as points allowed per game, as far as steals per game, blocks per game, points off turnovers. From a statistical standpoint, this year's team kind of best that 18-19 team in each of those categories. Asking Mike Rhodes about it on Monday, he mentioned that he feels like both of those defenses are very similar, but he believes that the 18-19 team was maybe a little bit better in the press, while this year's defense is a little bit better in the half court. So obviously, the press is one of VCU's signature traits of his defense. They press on every possession. Um, but on the flip of the coin, over Mike Rhodes' tenure, you've seen his teams really be able to dig in on the half court, maybe better than some VCU teams historically have been able to do, and that's been a big part of their consistent play on that end. And he said that you know for at this time of the year, especially, kind of taking away opponents' half court execution is very important. So again, that defense is something that he says is going to have to travel this weekend. DC, the defense helped VCU even with the loss to St. Louis, finished 9-2 on the road this year. So the defense is going to be something that they're going to have to carry along with them this weekend. They're going to have success and going to put themselves in position to get that bid to the NCAA tournament. So speaking of, again, VCU is very much on the bubble. Some bracketologists right now have them sort of slightly into the field. Some have them right outside the tournament picture. So just sort of a glance at where they're at right now. As far as Joe Lunardi at ESPN has them in their next four out. He previously had them in a group that he kind of terms his next four out. So they've kind of moved up, even with the St. Louis loss, and they're still hanging there in that next four out. If you look at Andy Katz, Instagram.com analyst there, he has them in the first four, which obviously the first four has a lot of history with VCU. The Final Four team began their run in the first four 11 years ago. So Andy Katz has them in the first four playing in Dayton for a chance to go on to the full bracket. Elsewhere, Patrick Stevens at the Washington Post, he previously had VCU as a number 12, as a number 11 seed in his bracket in the field within that large bid. After the loss to St. Louis, he still has him in the field, but now as a number 12 seed, playing in the first four as well. Sports Illustrated has VCU into the first four as well, so they're still hanging in there in the Sports Illustrated's bracket even with the loss. Bleacher Report, they kind of break it down by first team in or first team out, and they have VCU as the very first team out. And one of the stats cited there was the VCU is 2-6 against teams in the top 75 of the net rankings this year. The wins were against Davidson and Dayton. The losses were also to Davidson and Dayton, but also to Baylor, to UConn, and to Chattanooga and St. Louis. So that's one of the things that the Bleacher Report bracket kind of has pulling VCU down in their mind. CBS Sports Jerry Palm has VCU as in his first four out right now. So as you can see, it's kind of all along the gamut right now. Some have them in, some have them out. But VCU can sweat a lot less on Selection Sunday if they make it to Sunday in the A10 tournament and put themselves in that title game. I think if they get to that title game, regardless if they win it, obviously they'll get the auto bid. But even if they get to the title game and lose it, I think VCU will find itself in pretty good shape for getting that large bid and getting back to the NCAA tournament for a second straight year. So a lot at stake though, and VCU still has a lot of work to do, of course. And looking ahead to Friday, VCU will play at 8:30 p.m. on Friday, the late game in the quarterfinals tomorrow on Friday, and they'll play either Richmond or Rhode Island in that game. So Richmond, Rhode Island will play at 8:30 on Thursday nights for a chance to play VCU. VCU swept the regular season series against Richmond, their two matchups there, and beat Rhode Island in their lone matchup as well in the regular season. So VCU has won in each of the matchups against their two possible opponents on Friday. But you look at Richmond. Richmond is a team that is full of experience, full of fifth-year and sixth-year seniors. So you say in a tournament setting, that's still a dangerous team, even if VCU has swept the regular season series. And then Rhode Island, despite VCU's win this year in the regular season, Rhode Island is obviously, as VCU fans know, has given VCU a lot of trouble over the years. Rhode Island was a team that VCU lost to in the quarterfinals, back in 2019 before they got that large bid. So Rhode Island's a program that just the way they play defense and the intensity of that defense has given VCU some trouble over the years. So that could be a tough matchup as well if that's what it comes down to. And then you look ahead, if VCU gets past the Friday game, it'll most likely be a matchup against Dayton. And then you look ahead to if they get to the title game, it could be against St. Bonaventure or Davidson. So kind of breaking down VCU's four losses in the conference play, they went 14-4 to tie for second place in the league. And their four losses were to Dayton, to Davidson, to St. Bonaventure, and to St. Louis. And so, they have a chance to play couple of those teams if they make it to the weekend in the A10 tournament. So it's gonna be a hard road, but if VCU is able to kind of to get past that, get to Sunday, they'll put themselves in a pretty good spot. And so, John O'Connor, my colleague who covers Richmond, is up there covering Richmond right now, and we'll stay there to cover the VCU Richmond game they play on Friday. I'll be heading up Friday afternoon to cover the VCU game that night, and kind of we'll be sticking around throughout the weekend based on the results. So you can find all our coverage at richmond.com/sports, and it's going to be a fun weekend and a big weekend. Looking forward to it. Thanks for listening. You can follow all our coverage at richmond.com/sports, and we'll be back next week to break down VCU's possible NCAA tournament game or possible postseason game, regardless, looking ahead to next week. Thank you very much.